welcome to the Sports Countdown podcast with Declan Hughes and Peter Lynch. This week we're buzzing to be joined by our good friend Ryan Murray as we look ahead to the return of the Premier League, which gets underway this time next week. Before we get started, just as ever, a quick shout out to Freelance Football Ops. They're a top group who source paid football media roles, so you can give them a shout on Twitter or LinkedIn if you're looking for a job in the industry right now. Ryan, thanks so much for joining us. Absolute pleasure to have you on here today.
Thanks, Pete. Lovely to be on. Long time listener, first time invite, I guess. So happy to be here.
Great to hear. I'll just get stuck right into it. Premier League kicking off again next week. Everyone's absolutely buzzing, obviously. Us three are definitely. But I thought we have to start with the transfer window. I would say it started off a bit slow, but things are kind of picking up now as clubs look to strengthen. As we get closer to the deadline. There'll be no doubt there'll be a couple of big transfers by the time this episode goes out, I would say. But at the minute, which ones would you say have caught your eye the most?
The current transfers that have happened, dusted. Well, the first one is, I think, the biggest one, and it's Buendia to Aston Villa. Nice. I mean, he's arguably the best player to ever play in the Championship, I think, and I think he's still young, and I think he's going to do bits for Aston Villa this year. I think Villa are going to have a really good squad, and if Jack Grealish goes, there's another 100 million for them to play with, and I think they've got the basis of a good squad, which will only be strengthened by him. But I mean, if you look to the bigger signings, you can't escape Jadon Sancho. To United, it's United have made it clear what they're on about this year, and Sancho is a real signing. It's a good signing, young, and everyone knows how good he is. But I think the main one, with Varane coming in as well for 42 million, that you don't mess around with centre backs. It takes you a long time to get it, and there's many mistakes that are made. But Varane, you can't escape it. He's won the World Cup, he's won the Champions League, he's won everything there is. And so Premier League, you should argue, is going to be not his hardest thing he's been into yet. And he's not young anymore either. I think he's closing into 30, maybe 27, 28. So I think they're the main ones. But I mean, one here I got to say is Chris Fire to Bournemouth. I know Pete won't like that one. He's not a big fan of Ayer, but I think he's obviously played in Scotland for a long time. I think Celtic bought him originally when he was 16 from start, I believe. And he's one of these players where he's good on the ball, but he also runs out of defence into the space into midfield, which I think we saw with Sheffield United 2 seasons ago. Them sort of overlapping centre backs. That's something that some clubs can't deal with, and Ayer just deciding to pick up and run has helped him way up north against the Scottish teams, and I guess we'll see if that correlates to the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ayer played midfield, I think, to start, and then I think he was a midfielder, right? And then Roger sent him to Kilmarnock. He wanted him to play centre back, so he's definitely got the qualities to possibly even play back in midfield. And then you saw last season as well, he played a little bit at right back, so he's definitely used to bombing forward, and I think that can be an advantage to Brentford. You're absolutely right. But on Varane, I mean, you say he's won everything there is to win in his league and for his country as well, winning World Cups. But Rio Ferdinand thinks he's going to have difficulty dealing with crosses. So we'll see how a World Cup winner, a 3-time La Liga winner, Champions League multiple-time winner deals with a cross. So I'd assume a centre back will be able to deal with a cross, right, Pete?
Yeah, you'd like to think so, man, but that's the English media for you, innit? They just, as soon as anybody, it's like all Liverpool fans, as soon as Varane signs for United, he's the worst defender in the world. But I need to shout out Big Kanate, because we have our own, new centre half in him. So I think he's going to be a really top player for us. He's played in pre-season already, looking a really good signing. And then Ben White as well at the back for Arsenal. There seems to be a lot of defensive moves. Normally it's a lot of attacking talents that steal the headlines in the transfer window. But those guys you mentioned, and Junior Firpo as well from Barcelona to Leeds. You know, they lost Alioski from left back, and Stuart Dallas has had to go in there a few times, more than he'd like to. So that's a really top signing in left back there. But maybe my best one, maybe Leon Bailey. It just arrived at Aston Villa there today. I mean, that's a ridiculous signing. I know they're losing. It looks to be like they're losing Grealish, but you know, as Ryan said, they're going to bring in a few guys. Buendia is going to be a top player, and then Leon Bailey as well. I mean, I think they're filling in the Grealish hole. If he does go, then that's filled in pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, they're talking about Cantwell as well, you know, to come in. And, you know, Cantwell's been in the Prem, I believe, didn't he, with Norwich?
Yeah.
And, you know, they seem like they're putting a real intent here. You know, it could either go one of two ways, where they push on to try to do Europa League, or it all crumbles for them. That's how it always seems to go when teams. I mean, Everton had a transfer season, a window a few years back where they made some class signings, and it just all fell apart for them. So, you know, Aston Villa, I think, are one of the teams to watch.
Yeah, definitely. So Grealish, potential outgoing. I just wanted to get a few outgoings in there before we move away from, you know, sort of done deals. I know it kind of goes, you know, unnoticed some of the moves away because everyone's focused on who's coming in. But I just thought I should let you boys know who the players that we're losing from the Premier League this season, which is really sad to see. Some absolute legends and some icons. Do you remember
Joe Hart being one of them? Yes.
Joe Hart. He's one of them. Another goalkeeper, Rui Patricio, has gone to Roma. You know, some of these signings you don't even know that's happened. He's been a top keeper in the Premier League for years now. So yeah, that's those two guys. Wijnaldum obviously leaving Liverpool. He's been with Newcastle as well before. You have Toby Alderweireld leaving Spurs. Mamadou Sakho, legend in a Liverpool shirt. Crystal Palace. He's gone to Ligue 1. David Luiz is gone as well. He's been released by Arsenal. You have Pablo Hernandez gone from Leeds. Christian Fuchs gone from Leicester. And then last one, Sergio Aguero gone from City. So, I mean, absolute legends in that list, and they're probably going to be gone from English football forever. But I just thought I'd let you boys know who we're missing.
James McCarthy as well, another legend, is moving up north. So there's two.
Yeah, no, that's to be fair.
It's pretty sad when you look at it, though. That's it's kind of coming to that age. I mean, you boys are the same age as me, where like maybe when you're a little bit younger, you're still interested in the, you know, the stickers and the cards, and you'd still get Aguero, you know, in it, and you would, you know what I mean? And that's dying out now, you know. So, you know, these players, I mean, David Luiz, whether you love him or hate him, you know everything about him. You know every mistake he's made, every world-class shot he's made, and you know it is a shame in a weird way. It's you know, there's a few quiet ones and a few that you don't think about until it happens.
To be fair with him, I mean, you never know with Luiz. He could be at Spurs next season. Like, you never know.
Right, well, we get to the transfer rumours then. We kind of touched on them already. There's two major ones that have broke within the last week or become more serious anyway. So, Ryan, I'll come with you first. You kind of mentioned Jack Grealish to Man City. So, what do you make of that? If that deal happens, a good move for him and a good move for Man City, just makes them that bit stronger again.
I mean, it's City, so like, you know, he'll play half the time on the pitch, half the time on the bench. You know, I wouldn't pick him for my fantasy team, but you know, he's a top quality player. Like he's you know, he's a baller, and he has been for a long time. So this, you know, for this to come about now is it's kind of late, I think, for him. You know, it must have been a choice to stay at Villa for so long. You know, in the Championship, he was one of the best players for them. You know, coming up into Premier League, he consistently has some of the best statistics, you know, around, you know, amount of fouls given against him. He's that type of player. He reminds me of Jack Wilshere, probably a better version of Jack Wilshere, where he just draws in the foul from out of nowhere, and he seems to not get as injured as him. But I mean, when you talk about the money, I'm not sure 100 million, but you know, we come into a place with, you know, Ben White, who I think is going to do well at Arsenal, is costing 50 million. So, you know, I guess 100 million is what the market is saying. So I think it's a good signing, and I think Grealish won't suffer from any sort of delay to his form when he moves. I think he's going to hit the ground running, and, you know, and don't be surprised to see him on the bench half the time.
Would you say there was like a better move elsewhere for him than Man City? Because you know how as you're saying, how competitive that team is, and Guardiola rotates the squad a lot. So do you think there's maybe another team that might have suited them a little bit better?
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. And I think the answer is he wants to play for City, because you could argue City are the best team in the world at the moment, you know, and people all want to play under Guardiola. And he has this, I don't know what it is. It must be such a good atmosphere, because there's, you know, Riyad Mahrez spent half of last season on the bench, and then, you know, comes in and he makes such an impact, and he will score a hat trick, and then he goes back to the bench the next game. So there must be something there, and it must be the promise that, you know, you're always going to be in contention of trophies. And, you know, as they start to get to it, you know, Champions League could be their year this season. So I think it's the best move he could have done. He could probably go play for more football elsewhere, but, you know, you want to play with the best. And, you know, with Kevin De Bruyne there, and, you know, a few other big names, then, you know, I don't think there's anywhere better for him, especially for England football as well.
Definitely. Right, well, speaking about trophies then, a man that's not won any, Harry Kane, Pete, I'll come to you with him. Another rumour, again, it's Man City linked with the big names again. And then we've obviously learned this week that he's not turned up for his first 2 training sessions at Spurs. So do you think this move's inevitable to happen? I think Grealish is more set, but do you think Kane will follow him to Man City?
I can see it happening, definitely, just because, again, what Ryan mentioned, you know, the way City are, without slagging them off too badly, but I mean, they've got the money there to spend, so I mean, why not spend it? And then they've also got rid of Aguero, as we just talked about, so they've got that hole up top. And I wouldn't put it past Pep Guardiola to, you know, for Jesus again, you know, to just give him a cold shoulder and bring in a different world-class striker. Like, so they're spoilt, and if they do sign Kane, you know, it's a ridiculous attack. They already have a ridiculous attack, but yeah, that'll make them that a bit stronger. Not good to see if he is not turning up for training. You know, you never really know the full story there, but if he's not turning up to training, you know, it's not a good sign, because I mean, who wants to stop him from doing that at City? If he does go to City in a couple of years, you know what I mean? It's not really, you know, it's not a good sign of loyalty. Because you have other players there. Maybe Wilfred Zaha comes to mind. You know, he's been linked with a move away from a team much smaller than Spurs in Crystal Palace for years, and I don't think he's ever not given 110%. You know, his attitude's been amazing. So that's kind of sad to see, but I can't see it happening, unfortunately, because Spurs seem to be going through that sort of phase. Well, I don't know how long it's been going on for without winning any trophies. But, you know, a new manager, and obviously, you know, it just depends what sort of side they're going to have this season, how well they're going to do. But as Ryan, you know, Ryan absolutely nailed it. If you're a professional footballer, you know, you want to win trophies, and Kane said that he wants to win trophies. You know, I think then City's definitely going to be the place to be.
Yeah, he's certainly not going to get it at Spurs this season or anytime soon, I don't think, unfortunately. Right, that'll transfer nice over. Spurs, a team that didn't make the top 4 last season. So this season, obviously, a couple of transfers, a couple of new managers, which we'll get to a little bit later on. But I'll come to Ryan first with this one. Have you got your who you think will be in the top 4 this season? Do you think it'll be close, or do you think there's maybe 4 teams that are like a certainty to be there, and then some teams will kind of fall? Because last season, it kind of there was top 3 that was there all season, and Leicester, a team obviously that keeps kind of creeping out at the end. So if you had to call it right now, who would be the top 4?
Yeah, I mean, it's always tough, isn't it? I mean, you got to put City in there. I think you got to put Liverpool in there as well. I think Liverpool are going to bounce back and have a pretty good season this year. I mean, I said it before. I think United, you know, I think they've sorted out their centre back position, which I think is probably one of the most important positions. And they've always had a good attack, United. You know, and they've got Amad Diallo as well coming through. So, and obviously they've got Sancho, Rashford, Greenwood. So I think United, this is the year now, you know, them coming of age to really put a challenge in. And then my outside one would be Chelsea. I'm not quite sure why. Big Reece James fan. I think Reece James is going to be pivotal this year. I think the whole team in itself is good. I think Werner's going to finally, you know, pick up. I don't think he's going to be top goal scorer, but I think he's going to start being the guy who actually is a little bit more reliable in front of goal. and I guess, you know, Tammy Abraham might be moving away to Aston Villa, apparently. Some of the rumours believe, but I think, you know, there's still a big part for him to play in that team as well, you know, alongside the Chelsea old boys, and, you know, I say old boys, but the young boys in terms of, you know, Mason Mount, Reece James, you know, all the ones that came through with Frank Lampard. So I think that's my top four. It could be completely wrong, but I think this is the year that Leicester start to slip out and start being that Europa League sort of team, you know, fighting for Europa team, which they, I guess, arguably have been, you know, been batting above for the past few years. So I mean, credit to them, but I think this is the year that they go back to that.
Yeah, fingers crossed that they stay there. But you know, I mean, you even mentioned Chelsea there, like Werner, but then another rumour that's hit the mill again is Lukaku going back to Chelsea for the 5th, 6th time in his career. It seems like Chelsea don't know when they've got a good striker. They just sold him on a bit too quickly to Man U a few seasons back. And then even Eric Haaland as well, another rumour, but I think he's kind of put that to bed. He seems like he wants to stay at Dortmund. So Chelsea, clearly, it seems like they're in a hunt for that striker. But I'm with you in thinking that I think they should give Werner a good chance this season. I think he'll play better this season. He's the year to adapt, figure it out. Yeah. So like, fingers crossed for him, because I really like him. Hopefully he has a really good season. But Pete, I want to actually go to the other end of the table for you. Change it up. So relegation favourites, if you 3-4 teams maybe that you think are going to struggle this year. And sorry to the fans that you're going to call out.
I don't like to single anyone out, man. Can't believe you've done this to me. Where do I begin, really? I think, I mean, those teams that come up, there's always one, isn't there, at least, that kind of goes straight back down. So, I mean, it's hard to know with those teams. I do like the look of Brentford. I mean, they played some really good football. So, I mean, they could do maybe not as good as what Leeds did last season, but I think they have a lot of talented players in there. But again, it's that step up to the Premier League. I can see you shaking your head there, Declan. You're not
they're going down instantly. I'm sorry. Sorry, fans, you're going down.
I think, I mean, I just can't believe Burnley and Brighton, both of them. I mean, I don't want to. Brighton, to be fair, they do create a lot of chances. I think they just need that killer instinct up front, because they don't concede many goals. I think Burnley have maybe overstayed their welcome in the top flight. And Norwich, I mean, Norwich are kind of that yo-yo club, you know what I mean? They go up one season, go down the next season. So, I mean, again, it is going to be difficult because there's just a lot of teams and they're always scrapping for points down there. I mean, think about it was West Ham a few seasons ago, and then look at them now. I mean, they're in the Europa League this season, so it's impossible to call. Southampton are kind of hovering above that relegation zone lately in the last couple of seasons, and I'm not sure how much they've strengthened this summer. So, and if they lose Danny Ings, then I mean that's really worrying, and he's been linked with the move away. Watford again, obviously they've been up and down again like Norwich, so it's really, really tough to call. But those are the teams I would pick out. Those teams I mentioned, and then I hate to do it because of a few Newcastle supporting mates, but I mean they really don't convince me every single year. They're just the same. I mean, and they haven't strengthened at all. I was looking at the transfers. They've let about 20 young guys go, released them, and they haven't brought in much at all, to be honest. And they always seem to be crippled by injuries. So if that happens again, they could be in real trouble.
Yeah, they're getting booed in pre-season friendlies as well, so it's not a good start for Steve Bruce. But
it's the same thing every season. Newcastle, I just don't understand how. I mean, it's probably Mike Ashley's fault, to be fair, but I just don't. I would hate to be a Newcastle fan because it's nothing ever changes there, to be honest.
Are we going to all confirm that this time next year, West Brom will be back in the Premier League again?
Maybe.
When you're up, when you're down, like Norwich, you're saying. So a big year for them actually, and probably a big year for Cantwell if he stays there, because I don't think he'll fancy another year in the Championship after another one in the Prem. So we'll see with that. Right, we'll move on to the managers then. A lot of changes have happened this season. We've had Patrick Vieira's now Crystal Palace manager. Nuno's went from Wolves to Spurs. Rafa has betrayed Liverpool and went to Everton. So those are some of the big ones. So Ryan, out of those that I've just kind of mentioned, who do you think will have the most successful first season in charge at their new club?
Sorry, Pete, and I guess Declan, you're wearing the local top as well. I think it's going to be Rafa. He has all the tools there. I don't know. I've got a soft spot for Benitez. I think he turns a good few teams around. I mean, he's gone from leading some top clubs to helping clubs, who are at the bottom of the Premier League, which is mad. But I think Rafa's going to have the good one there. Especially if he keeps some of the players. James Rodriguez's future's a bit up in the air. But I think it's Everton. I think it's about time. I mean, I don't think they're going to do anything too amazing, but I think in terms of the other one, I honestly think Vieira is going to struggle. Crystal Palace have a weird team where you seem to rely on Wilfried Zaha for most of the time, and then he gets injured, and then you're hoping Eze picks up where he's left off. So I think Vieira might be the first one sacked, but with Nuno, I mean, he had a very specific finger on with Wolves, and that was to sign people who could speak Portuguese, even if they were Spaniards, and it worked well to a certain level. But Spurs, whoever can uncrack that is going to be the next world class manager, I think, because they have it all every year. You think that's a great squad, and then they lose some players, and then they come back to it, and then they lose them again, and the manager changes. So we'll see with Spurs is the real real thing that we'll see, I guess, what we can talk about. But I think that's it. I think Vieira sacked, Nuno unsure, Rafa pushing up into the top half of the Prem.
Yeah, I disagree with that. Pete, any other thoughts on new managers coming in?
You have obviously new Wolves gaffer in there, Bruno Lage. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm not too sure, but that's obviously going to be a tough job replacing Nuno, who obviously just maybe wanted a new challenge, or he felt behind the scenes it wasn't worth his while staying there any longer. But that Wolves team is a really, really young side. I mean, and as Ryan said, they've got a lot of those Portuguese guys still in there. They've signed another one, Trincao from Barcelona. It's another top signing. And it's going to be interesting to see how Raul Jimenez gets on. Obviously, with that injury he had last season, the head injury, he's back, which is great to see. But whether he's the same player, they're going to need him to be, because he's their main man, like he's their best player. And obviously Adama Traore, it's just hit and miss again. So that'll be a tough job, I think, going into that one. I do agree with Ryan. I think Vieira's kind of walking into a bit of a nightmare with Palace. They've got, I read something like at least 10 players who were maybe out of contract. So they've obviously got rid of a few of them. Townsend is gone to Everton, and Zaha, as we talked about before, it's kind of up in the air at the minute. So
Gary Cahill's gone as well, right?
Yeah, Cahill.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of guys there were aging players, McCarthy as well. So it's a tough job, and I don't want to see him fail, because he's obviously a Premier League legend. So that's kind of what I don't like whenever ex-players come in to manage clubs, because it's sad to see them do badly. And then not even going to talk about Rafa, I'm afraid. It's far too soon. I just don't even want to pass comment.
Oh well, will we move on then from?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll move back towards some players. I'm going to do our countdown this week. We thought we'd get you to focus on some ones to watch. So, away from the big names of like De Bruyne, Salah, Kane, Bruno Fernandes, maybe and focus on some lesser known names out there. So going to ask you to count down your top 3 players to watch out for this season.
Okay, right. I think starting number 3, I think Declan would be good to hear this. I think Billy Gilmore. I think he's playing in a squad where he's gonna really do be the star man, I think. And you've seen it when he plays the Scotland team. He brings a bit of elegance and a bit of class, which and maturity to considering his age. I think you couldn't think of a better loan move for him. He's going to get a lot of playing time in a team that need him to do it. and I think that this is going to be the season for him, and then next season I think he's a mainstay in the Premier League, whether it's at Chelsea or not. Then number 2, this one I guess you boys know him, but others might not. I think again, Aya. I think Christopher Aya. I think this is the season for him. I think this is the season for Brentford. I think they're going to have one of them seasons when teams come up and they just play out the skin, and and for me personally, I think he's going to play an integral part in that. In I guess a team that is very fluid, as you've probably seen in the Championship for the past 2 years. I think Aya is the perfect addition. And I guess number 1, you probably remember him from last season, but I think he's an absolute baller. Probably one of the best players to play left back as he grows older. I think Tariq Lamptey from Brighton, Chelsea player. He's injured at the moment. I don't know if he's going to start the season, but every time you watch him, he's got this attacking intent that just really changed the outlook of the Brighton team. And he made things happen. He got down the line. And also, considering his height, he's not too bad defensively either. He never seemed out of his depth, but he had a horrible hamstring injury probably halfway through last season, which really hampered it. And I think, he's the one to look out for. And I think Chelsea are mugs for getting rid of him.
Yeah. I saw him linked with Bayern Munich, I think, a couple of months ago, maybe last season. So, yeah, definitely interesting. Some decent players in there. Declan, any names come to mind for you?
I actually kind of liked the Gilmore. I actually forgot that he went for a second. I forgot he went to Norwich. So, yeah, from like a Scottish perspective, it'd be good for him to get a lot more game time in him. And then, as you're saying, I think he's definitely got the quality to play at a top 6 team. You can see it in him how young he is already when he comes into Scotland and played against England, played phenomenally well. So I'll be looking out and wishing him the best this season. That was a good call with him.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just going to mention Leon Bailey, as I said before, for Villa. I think he's going to be, a top player. But my man's Said Ben Rama for West Ham. I think this could be his time to shine. Obviously Brentford fans will know him well, but I think he scored against them as well last week in pre-season. So didn't get much game time last season, but I think he's going to be a really, really top player, especially now with Lingard gone from West Ham. Which is really annoying to see because I don't think he's going to start for United, unfortunately. But yeah, that's my main man, definitely.
I think Ivan Toney's going to need to have a great season for Brentford. Another one that probably got away for Celtic last season. Obviously top scorer on the Championship. Basically got them up. I know they play great stuff, but he was the man just banging in the goals. So if Brentford do have any hopes of staying up, they're going to have to really rely on Ivan Toney playing the way he has the last 2 seasons at Peterborough and then last season at Brentford. So he'll be one to watch out for, and hopefully he does have a really good season. And again, I know I said Brentford will go down, but I do like the stories when these teams come up and they stay up. So I really wish they play good football as well. So fingers crossed they do stay up, and it's just defensively, hopefully I can see them conceding a lot of goals. But because I mean, even last season, Ryan Ayer didn't cover himself in glory at the back. But he's good.
But that was a poor team he was in, to be fair. I think this is a new lease of life for him. And then you say Ivan Toney, I saw him at Wigan. He didn't really hit the goals, but you saw something was there, and then just something clicked with him. And to go from a team like Peterborough and to then on to Brentford and still get the goals and still get I think he got the record for the most Championship goals in a season. That's a tough one to beat, but I'm hoping he doesn't get Dwight Gale syndrome, and
it could happen
and flop. No, it could.
Yeah. Happened to a lot of decent players there, the Cameron Jeromes of the world.
Who's the boy that played for Brighton for a long time? That
Glenn Murray.
Glenn, is it Glenn? Why? He's just a Championship quality player that just couldn't quite put it in the Prem. Hopefully
he scores goals for fun in the Championship, but can't do it in the Prem. But we'll see what happens.
We will.
Yeah.
Right, perfect place to leave it then on Ivan Toney, the man himself. But thanks very much, Ryan. Absolutely nailed it there. We really appreciate you taking the time there today.
No problem. It's good to finally be on, I guess, and hopefully maybe not the last time. When my breakthrough players are the ones making all the headlines, you'll give me a shout out.
Yep, absolutely, mate. We'll get you back on soon. And you too, Declan. Thanks for that analysis as always and the big preview.
No worries. Looking forward to the new season starting.
Can't wait, mate. Can't wait. And yeah, thanks to our followers as well for the continued support. You know, we really appreciate all the views, likes, shares, everything. I think we're just going to take a short break next week and let everyone enjoy the opening night. It's Brentford, who we talked a lot about there, who take on Arsenal on Friday evening. And then we will be back for more episodes shortly after that. So stay tuned.